All right, everybody, welcome to Brighter. So one of the big topics I want to cover today is what exactly is the reason why people are not buying electric vehicles. It turns out that the number one reason is cost, but the number two reason is charging. There's this belief by the public that electric vehicles, you're not going to be able to charge it. It's going to take a lot of work and, range anxiety and so forth. So today I've got Larry Goldberg with me. He's an angel investor. He's founded a couple of companies in the past, and he's a big investor in Tesla. And he's been, doing a lot of research about charging. So Larry, welcome to the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, let's cover this tweet from the limiting factor, Jordan Kasigi. And he said that 67% of all housing units, this is a kind of a research that came out, have vehicle parking within 20 feet of an electric outlet. So it's a lot higher than we all thought. As for the remaining 33% who aren't near an electric outlet, well, those are most likely in urban areas. Superchargers are available. There's potentially charging available at parking garages or shopping areas. And then the other component of that would be people who don't have a car and they want to do alternative forms of transport, like e-bikes, Uber, buses, and so forth. So, what proportion of people need home access to EV charging but don't have it? It says it's actually relatively small compared to the overall market of what you thought. So this is kind of like completely different than what people thought, that, not many people have a home. And so therefore they can't have an electric vehicle, which is not true. So I'll show you some stats here. Now, clearly true, you and I have been talking this quite a bit, that there's still going to be lots of work to build out a charging infrastructure. So that's for sure. We're not saying that that's not needed, but it's interesting to see this table here. And let me just go in a little closer here. So this is the share of U.S. housing units that have vehicles parked within 20 feet of an outlet. And in North Dakota, which is surprisingly, is 90% of housing
because
units.
They need it. You find that these are states with a lot of snow, and they need outdoor power for heating.
And what's interesting, so if you go down to the bottom here, look at this. This is a couple interesting points. California says 63%. So everybody thought, oh, California, right? The leader in electric vehicle adoption. They must have lots of houses because everybody lives in suburbs. They all have their homes. Actually, they're actually one of the lower parts of 63% of housing has outlets. And then, of course, you do expect that New York, like big cities, will have less housing. But 57%, Larry, that's a huge number. I would have guessed and told you, in the city, it's like 90, 80% of people don't have houses. They're all living in apartments and living, without cars. Right. Tell me about this. Of course, New York's a massive state, so I understand that it's not just the one city. But tell me what you're thinking when you see the stats.
Well, the District of Columbia is a city, functionally. And look, it's very low. So that gives you a sense of what it must be in the city of New York. But we're going to go through a revolution. Look, there are really a tale of two worlds here. The one world is Tesla, where Tesla has built out a massive charging network, as we know, and has, really proselytized on in-home charging. So when you buy a Tesla, you're going to be safe. You have a lot of range, over 300 miles. You know that you can charge it at home from your outlet. And if you don't have an outlet, there's a supercharger down the road. It's all the other makes that are struggling. And if you look at the sales of the other makes this year, have been very disappointing. Why? Because their range is only 200 miles. So even as it, used as a town car, it's very limiting. And, they haven't built out this kind of home charging support. So really, in the Tesla world, everything's going gung-ho the way it should go, because the car is designed in a whole universe, in an environment that is supportive. These other car manufacturers have created electric cars without thought about, how they're going to be supported, and have also not really designed the kind of car that can do the 300 miles which is this, minimum required. I mean, I've just done, 3,500 miles on this trip. I'm going to end up being over 7,000 miles when I'm done. Not a minute of range anxiety, not 1 minute of range anxiety. So it's a question of you've got to think it through. Now, Tesla's opening up the charging network. That's a very good thing. Every EV manufacturer will know they can get a charge on the road, and that opens up the road. But they've got to get their average, not the average, they've got to get their minimum up to that 300 miles for any car that's going to be bought for, road driving. Otherwise, it's just a town car, and you don't want to buy, a top-end car, generally a little bit more expensive than an ICE car, and you can't go on the road with it. It's crazy. So this is a very important factor.
Well, yeah, so we said, Seb, that the number 2 reason why people aren't buying electric vehicles is because of charging concern. And so you've just explained the stats to show that it's actually not a concern, but it's the consumers, like it's like their perception still, even though the stats and the reality is not the case. I think the good news, so we definitely need to have, more education, but the fact that the supercharger partnership happened, I think that that's seeping into consumers' minds now to realize that, not only the Tesla superchargers, but all the other supercharging or charging stations out there, they're adopting this the same standard. And so now there's this belief that, well, there's going to be, it's just, piling on, there's going to be more over time. And then the other in kind of perspective is Martin Vieco, who's the public investor relations for Tesla, kind of tweeted this out in reply to that tweet by Jordan. He said, EVs account for less than 2% of all vehicles in US roads at this point, right? Yet the vast majority of people can charge overnight because they're, as we showed here, the vast majority of them have within 20 feet of electric charge and have 300 miles at their disposal first thing in the morning. So I guess the point I got out of this, which is, we've got a long way before you hit those people who are very concerned about charging. We're really just at 2%. And so many people have access to an outlet. They will know when they go, maybe I should buy an electric vehicle. And so it's a huge, only 2% have bought it. And we can go all the way up to 57%. So.
But Herbert, that the first question you're asked by somebody who's, oh, you own a Tesla. Oh, what about the charging? Isn't that the first question they ask you?
Yeah, this idea that you come home and you just plug it in and that's it. I don't think everybody understands that that's the case.
They don't understand it because they just don't understand it. Look, I have a friend who has a Mini, an electric Mini. It's a town car. He says to me, it's a town car. He doesn't mince his words. Can't take it on a trip, but it's always charged at his home and it's ready to go. So even if you've got a car with a very, very low range, 150 miles in this case, or 120 miles, at least, you've got that charge, the ability to charge it overnight. Gosh, I'm at a hotel here and I just plug my car in the hotel. They've got chargers. The number of hotels, by the way, on the road that have chargers is amazing now.
Right.
And
we just heard
Hilton is going to add them to all their hotels. That's amazing.
Yeah. Those announcements are going to come fast and furious, right? There's going to be every hotel, every restaurant's going to announce it, and then it becomes. People are not.
Look, I'm a life titanium card owner with Marriott, and here I am staying in the Hilton, and that's kind of all I do on the road now because
it is in your head.
Yeah,
interesting. Yep. Okay, let me show you this this chart that said, what is your biggest concern when considering an electric vehicle? 36% said cost, 24% said lack of charging stations. And what's interesting, of course,
last year. I bet you this
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
This was taken. The actual study was probably last year, but this was published in March of this year. So I'm just
Well,
trying
it
to see
could have
when
been
this.
early this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, people haven't really understood the IRA yet.
Yeah.
People don't understand the money back thing yet, and that hasn't been advertised. So the advertising on cost, the advertising on charging stations, the advertising on range, none of that's been done. And, you know, if ever there was a time where it's time for marketing to be done, and it's not just by Tesla, it's by the industry. You know, the industry needs to get out in people's faces and say, guys, those bad old days, they're over. We've got the good days now. And look, low-cost cars, Tesla's chargers, you know, we're going to open up all the charging stations and all the, well, the driving range is a bad situation for these other vendors. I don't understand it.
You're saying that. But okay, so anyways, this is a great thing because cost is now at ICE parity, if not even cheaper in some cases.
Yes.
There is no lack of charging stations, as we've talked about, not an issue there. The lack of driving range, I think it's just a perception because most people don't have this issue. You've driven, you're just now driving across country right now. Of course, Tesla is not an issue, but now that they have the supercharger partnerships, it won't be an issue for most car companies, every car company. Maintenance fees, preference for non-electric vehicles is only 9%. So this idea that
but maintenance fees are
people don't.
But maintenance fees are ironic.
Right. Yeah. Well, you and I know this,
I mean,
people don't.
The Tesla maintenance, you know, I've had three Teslas over 5 years. My entire cost of maintenance in those 3 years is $46.
Which one was it? The fluid?
No, the $46 was, and I'm not including, by the way, rotating tires.
Yeah.
That and the inspections. But the $46 was, I think, a change of filter, air filter change. That because I had to compile all my Tesla accounts the other day. $46. I mean, I spent an average $2,000 to $3,000 every year on my BMW.
Me too.
It's $3,000 in maintenance. I'm not talking about gas. I'm talking about maintenance.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Larry. That was fun. Appreciate you covering that with me today. See you soon.
Thank you.
Hey there. Thank you for joining me. If you can, please consider supporting this channel so I can keep it going. It's a lot of work arranging all these amazing interviews. One of the easiest ways is just to click that join button and become a member of the channel. Thank you very much. Let's get brighter.